Howdy, folks, and welcome to Learn English with Fairytales, a podcast aimed at all levels and all ages learners, both native and non-native speakers, whose ultimate yearning is that of improving their language skills and possibly expand their vocabulary by means of some of the most beautiful stories ever written or told so far. My name is Gaetano Del Gaiso, and the story we'll be taking into account for today's episode is a story that would perfectly fit in the Spooktober frame of mind, as it features an equitable amount of darkness, a few clamorous jollifications perpetrated at the dim light of the moon, a burglary, burials, and an even-handed host of spine-chilling creatures that would sure enough give you the chills as you lend your ears to The Moon from Brothers Grimm. But before we embark on yet another adventurous journey, let's take a brief view of the vocabulary and expressions selected for today's episode of Learn English with Fairytales. Remember to check the description box to get access to the complete list of them, and to the link that will make you land on the full transcript of the episode, consultable, as usual, freely. Come on. Vocabulary segment. To spread. To spread. It is a verb meaning extend over a large or increase in area. As in, she stood at the window looking at the town spread out below. ɡlōb. ɡlōb. It is a noun referring to a spherical or rounded object. As in, orange trees clipped into giant globes. Countryman. Countryman. It is a noun referring to a man living or born in a rural area. As in, he was a complete countryman with a pronounced affinity with nature. Thaler. Thaler. It is a noun referring to a German silver coin. As in, our mayor bought it for 3 thalers. To feel about. To feel about. It is a phrasal verb meaning to wonder. As in, what a pleasure it would be not to have to feel about at night. Theft. Theft. It is a noun referring to the action or crime of stealing. As in, he was convicted of theft. To rejoice. To rejoice. It is a verb meaning to feel or show a great joy or delight. As in, Greg rejoiced in his spontaneity and directness. Meadow. Meadow. It is a noun referring to a piece of grassland, mostly used for hay. As in, this meadow is ready for cutting. To grow ill. To grow ill. It is an expression meaning to become sick. As in, please tell Margie that Freya grew ill. Hedge shears. Hedge shears. It is a compound noun referring to scissors with a long pair of straight blades. As in, I would often make use of hedge shears in order to prune my viburnum hedge. To be buried. To be buried. It is an expression meaning to be placed or hidden on the ground or in a vault or in a tomb. As in, the corpse has been buried in the local cemetery. Restless. Restless. It is an adjective meaning being unable to rest or relax as a result of anxiety or boredom. As in, the audience grew restless and inattentive. To hasten. To hasten. It is a verb meaning to be quick to do something. As in, he hastened to refute the assertion. To quarrel. To quarrel. It is a verb meaning to have a heated argument or disagreement. As in, they quarreled about who was the best at skedaddling from hunters. To belabor. To belabor. It is a verb meaning to attack physically or verbally. As in, Bernard was belaboring Jad with his fists. Now, without further ado, let's delve deeper into the story. Make sure to sit comfy and have something to sip on whilst talking, and enjoy your listening and learning experience with us. In days gone by, there was a land where the nights were always dark, and the sky spread over it like a black cloth. For there the moon never rose, and no star shone in the obscurity. At the creation of the world, the light at night had been sufficient. 3 young fellows once went out of this country on a traveling expedition, and arrived in another kingdom, where, in the evening, when the sun had disappeared behind the mountains, a shining globe was placed on an oak tree, which shed a soft light far and wide. By means of this, everything could very well be seen and distinguished, even though it was not as brilliant as the sun. The travelers stopped and asked a countryman who was driving past with his cart what kind of light that was. "That is the moon," answered he. "How may you bought it for $3 and fastened it to the oak tree?" "He has to pour oil in it daily and to keep it clean, so that it may always burn clearly. He receives $1 a week from us for doing that." When the countryman had driven away, one of them said, "We can make some use of this lamp. We have an oak tree at home, which is just as big as this, and we could hang it on that. Ah, what a pleasure it would be not to have to feel about at night in the darkness." "Oh, I'll tell you what we'll do," said the second. "We'll fetch a cart and horses and carry away the moon. The people here might buy themselves another." "Oh, I'm a good climber," said a third. "I will bring it down." The fourth brought a cart and horses, and the third climbed a tree, bowed a hole in the moon, passed a rope through it, and let it down. When the shining ball lay in the cart, they covered it over with a cloth, so that no one might observe the theft. They conveyed it safely into their own country and placed it on a high oak. Old and young rejoiced when the new lamp let its light shine over the whole land, and bedrooms and sitting rooms were filled with it. The dwarves came forth their caves and the rocks, and the tiny elves in their little rare coats danced in rings on the meadows. The four took care that the moon was provided with oil, cleaned the wick, and received their weekly tallow. But they became old men, and when one of them grew ill, and saw that he was about to die, he appointed that 1/4 of the moon should, as his property, be laid in the grave with him. When he died, the mayor climbed up the tree and cut off 1/4 with hedge shears, and this was placed in his coffin. The light of the moon decreased, but still not visibly. When the second died, the second 1/4 was buried with him, and the light diminished. It grew weaker still after the death of the third, who likewise took his part of it away with him. And when a fourth was born to his grave, the old state of darkness recommenced, and whenever the people went out at night without their lanterns, they knocked their heads together. When, however, the pieces of the moon had united themselves together again in the world below, where darkness had always prevailed, it came to pass that the dead became restless and awoke from their sleep. They were astonished when they were able to see again. The moonlight was quite sufficient for them, for their eyes had become so weak that they could not have borne the brilliance of the sun. They rose up and were merry, and fell into their former ways of living. Some of them went to the play and to dance, others hastened to the public houses, where they asked for wine, got drunk, brawled, quarrelled, and at last took up cudgels and belabored each other. The noise became greater and greater, and at last even reached heaven. St. Peter, who guards the gate of heaven, thought the lower world had broken out in revolt, and gathered together the heavenly troops, which are to drive back the evil one when he and his associates stormed the abode of the blessed. As these, however, did not come, he got on his horse and rode through the gate of heaven, down into the world below. There he reduced the dead to subjection, bade them lie down in their graves again, took the moon away with him, and hung it up in heaven. Well, folks, I have to admit it. This story has for sure set me in the mood for Halloween. Hope it might have worked out like that for you as well. If so, please don't forget to support our work by sharing this episode everywhere and spreading the podcast to all your friends, relatives, and acquaintances who could possibly appreciate it at least as much as you might have had so far. That being said, we'd like to invite you to share some love in our social media. You could find all the links in the description box of the episode, and renew our appointment for the episode to come out in 3 weeks from today. Thank you from the very bottom of our heart. Happy Spooktober, and be seeing you.